Let's have a change of scenery because this video is going to be somewhat different from my previous two. Instead of building something new, we're going to look at one of the first custom keyboards I ever built and my failures in having built it. That keyboard is this, the KBD Fans Mountain. It comes with a wooden wrist rest, and as you can see, it is an aluminum Alice style keyboard. The wrist rest is somewhat wobbly, it doesn't fit perfectly, and the edge of it doesn't match up with the edge of the keyboard either. But other than that, it is quite nice. There's a mountain logo on the bottom right. As for the keycaps, when I built this keyboard, I went with these beautiful black ceramic keycaps. They come in this little plastic case. Some of them are missing because they are in the keyboard. And unfortunately, there is no 7U spacebar, so I can't show you something later on in the video. But the spacebar itself is quite nice. The reason I chose these keycaps is because, like everyone else at the time, I was going after that thock sound, and everyone said that these keycaps would make your keyboard thock. Combined with the Gateron Oil Kings, I was convinced that this would be the thockiest keyboard possible, but there's a reason I don't use it. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, never mind. Before we do the typing test, there is one other small issue here. Some of the keycaps, and by some I do mean most, have a tolerance issue where they just fall out of the keyboard. Most of the keycaps that are not falling out in the typing test don't do that because I've stuffed them full of tissue paper. And I want to make it clear that it's not because the stems are broken or anything, they're perfectly fine. They just don't stay on these Oil Kings, and I don't know why. But if I could type with them, would it at least sound good? Yeah, that's not very docky, and I kind of blame the aluminum plate. I'm fairly certain that the plate is just so clacky that it cancels out any potential dock this keyboard ever had. And as far as I know, there are no other plate options, so in a way it was kind of my fault that I tried making this keyboard dock. You know, when I was first starting out, I just thought, you know, aluminum equals good. Metal is better than plastic, and therefore I should go with something with a metal plate. This keyboard has a metal plate, and therefore it would be good. I never really took the time to consider how that would affect the sound of the keyboard. And I really wish I had. You'll notice that even the two keys that are next to each other sound wildly different from each other. And it's just an inconsistent sound all around when you're typing on this keyboard. That's not to say that this keyboard sounds bad simply because of the aluminum plate. The ceramic keycaps themselves, the ones that are loose, also just do not sound good at all when they are loose. I could try stuffing those ones with more toilet paper, but also at the same time, I'd rather just not. But this channel is called Trash Build, so let's do something that resembles building at the very least. We'll take it apart and see what the assembly process would be like. The wrist rest sounds quite nice, I'll give it that at the very least. The keyboard sounds less nice. To take it apart, all we do is make sure we don't damage any keys that have fell down after flipping the keyboard over, and then we just unscrew the 5 screws on the back. This keyboard uses T7H bits on the back of the keyboard. The bottom of the keyboard is flush with the keyboard itself, so I find it hard to lift it up that way. It is easier to lift it up like so and make the back fall off a little bit. Not too much though, because then you risk damaging the cable that is connecting the daughter board to the keyboard. We just have to remove that, and then we can get on with disassembling it. The mountain does come with plate and case foam, and as you can tell by the indent in the foam itself, it is quite tight in there. There is really not much room to put anything else in there to help dampen the sound, unfortunately. As for the split PCBs, they are top mounted by 4 Phillips screws. Those are the normal screws that everyone uses. Removing the PCBs from the keyboard doesn't make it sound any better, and once again I blame that aluminum plate. But the sound of the keyboard itself probably doesn't help. Now I want to see if these keycaps can sound good on something that is not aluminum, so I'm going to test them out on my QK80, which, as a reminder, uses an FR4 plate with clack bits, which is clack bit or clack bait, I'm not entirely sure which one. But as you heard, it's not too docky nor is it too clacky, so it should be a nice neutral base to see what it would sound like. I mean, that is miles better, even without the 7U ceramic spacebar, so it really gives me hope for these keycaps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save these keycaps for a very special keyboard coming in a couple months, and with what I know now, try to make that one sound as good as possible. As for the KBD Fans Mountain, I've essentially given up on sound and have opted to go for aesthetics instead, so for the keycap set, I'm going with MT3 Dwarvish from Drop for 3 main reasons. The first one being that this is the mountain, and Dwarves lives in mountains. The second being that if the keyboard pings at all, I can blame it on the fact that Dwarves use anvils that ping. And the fourth being that, well, these keycaps don't fall off, and they sound good enough. Honestly, even if the keyboard sounded nice, I probably wouldn't use it due to the layout of the spacebars. I don't find it comfortable hitting the spacebar like that. On my other Alice keyboard, the most expensive thing I own, you'll notice that when I hit a spacebar, what I do is I slide my thumb to the left as I press down. That's just how I naturally do it. And with the KBD Fans Mountain, I can't do that. I have to press straight down and have my thumb too curled up. In addition, the two halves on the KBD Mountain are very close together, as opposed to the AMFA, which has a significant gap, which makes it much more ergonomic than a regular keyboard. It's not as ergonomic as an actual ergonomic keyboard, but it's still significantly better than the KBD Fans Mountain. If you want to find out more about this keyboard, by the way, make sure you check out my video on it. It is the first thing I've ever done on this channel, and it is doing horribly. Back to the KBD Fans Mountain though, tell me what you think about the looks and sound. Personally for me, I think it looks somewhat boring without the wrist rest, but once you add the wrist rest on there, I think it looks quite nice. Suddenly it just pops. I don't know what it is about it. But more importantly, let me know what you thought about this video in general. I know I had a much more negative tone about it, and that was intentional. I've noticed that a lot of YouTubers in this space don't say anything bad about anything ever, which is very misleading. In this hobby, there are things that are objectively bad, like keycaps that won't stay on switches, or keyboards that ping like a blacksmith's anvil, and failing to inform consumers of that is just going to set them up for disappointment when they eventually buy something that is very expensive and it's not as good as everyone led them to believe it was. But if you really don't want to see negative videos, let me know. It's not going to stop me from making them if I really feel strongly about something. But it'll probably stop me from making a video on something that nobody's going to buy anyways. Anyways, thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you next time, hopefully.